Business Value podcast. This podcast is brought to you by Mastery Partners, where our mission is to equip business owners to maximize business value so they can transition their business on their terms. Our mission was born from the lessons we've learned from over 100 business transactions, which fuels our desire to share our experiences and wisdom so you can succeed. Now here's your host, CEO of Mastery Partners, Tom Bronson.
Hi, this is Tom Bronson, and welcome again to Maximize Business Value, a podcast for business owners who are passionate about building long-term, sustainable value in their businesses. Now, every week, I say the same thing, but I'm going to say it over and over and over again because I need to drill it down deep into your consciousness. Every business on the planet will eventually transition. Now, wouldn't it be better to transition your business by design rather than default? So if you're a business owner who really wants to maximize the value of your business and eventually exit your business on your terms, you found the right place. This is part of our series on my latest book, Maximize Business Value Playbook, the 65 specific actions you can take to dramatically increase the value of your business. Today, we're going to talk about Chapter 9, minimizing the different types of discretionary spending. Probably a least favorite topic of many business owners, because I'm going to tell you why. So let's face it, nearly every small business has some amount of discretionary spending. Discretionary spending is basically the non-essential expenses that are the types of expenses that, if eliminated, the business could carry on without those expenses. For example, meals at restaurants or tickets to a sporting event are typically non-essential to the operation of the business. Customer entertainment and business meals might be considered necessary, but what about family vacations and country club dues and cars for the owner and their spouse and family cell phone plans or season tickets to your favorite local sports team? What about lawn care and housekeeping and homeowner insurance? Believe me when I say I have seen it all. Now, I've witnessed business owners who commingle all of these things, and it's nearly impossible to get to a real number for actual business expenses. Every business owner has some level of discretionary spending, but guess what? Nobody cares, right? I mean, what's a little tax avoidance among friends? Well, let me tell you who cares. You do. And here's why. Because it has a significant impact on the future value of your business. Many small businesses try to manage the bottom line to zero as close as they can get. That's not good tax planning. But if the business is otherwise profitable, the owner loads a bunch of discretionary expenses just to minimize the taxes. That can come back to haunt them in the long run. First, while reasonably low risk, if the business is ever subject to the scrutiny of an IRS audit, back taxes may be due plus interest and penalties. But second, and more importantly, estimates are that 95% of all small business transactions are based on a multiple of earnings. If there are no earnings, the business isn't worth very much. And if the earnings are being artificially lowered because of discretionary expenditures, the business owner might think that they can just add those back and the buyer will accept the newly revised number. Not so fast, Lone Ranger. Sophisticated third-party buyers just get what I call adjustment fatigue. They usually accept owner compensation above the market, maybe a company car, cell phone. But when the owner piles on tickets and dues and vacations and fancy meals and wine clubs and everything else, the buyer will likely discount much of those expenses as necessary to operate the business, and therefore, the seller will not get the full benefit of the true value of the business because the multiple will be lower. The math will just make it a lower number. Now, I'm not suggesting that you as the owner stop doing all of those things cold turkey. What I am suggesting is that you relentlessly track those things and begin to minimize them with the goal of little or no discretionary expenses for at least a year, ideally 2 or 3 years before the transition, because that way the owner will get a true value of the business at transition. And by the way, it's a big mistake to have life insurance premiums paid by the company. Just so I have to throw this one in there. Unless, of course, it's to fund a buy-sell agreement among partners upon death. The business, if they're paying for the premiums, may be the beneficiary. And if that's the case, the money will be taxed before it gets to the intended recipient. So check with an insurance professional to make sure that your insurance is properly written and paid for. So my maximize business value recommended actions this week. Number one, take a hard look at your discretionary expenses and find ways to minimize them. Number two, make sure that they are virtually eliminated from the business at least 2 years before you intend to exit the business. Number three, go look up the article on how to reduce discretionary spending at www.masterypartners.com, my favorite website. Next week, we're going to talk about investing in your finance systems and your finance team. It'll be a good one. This is the Maximize Business Value podcast, where we give practical advice to business owners on how to build long-term sustainable value in your business. Now, if this is the first MBV podcast that you've listened to, there are almost 170 episodes crammed with valuable information just waiting for them to be downloaded wherever you found this podcast. So go download some today. If you use Audible, we're now on Audible, and so you can access the podcast there. Until next time, I'm Tom Bronson, reminding you to pick one thing, just one thing this week to dramatically improve the value of your business, and do it today while you maximize business value.
Thank you for tuning into the Maximize Business Value podcast with Tom Bronson. This podcast is brought to you by Mastery Partners, where our mission is to equip business owners to maximize business value so they can transition on their terms. Learn more on how to build long-term sustainable business value and get free value-building tools by visiting our website, www.masterypartners.com. That's master with a Y, masterypartners.com. Check it out.
That was perfect. I wouldn't make any changes on that.